left school having gone to tech and for some reason put into a commercial class, because in those days it was agriculture or engineering, and my mother and sister said, "You're not interested in those." Well, I went to the labour exchange and asked what jobs they had, and they said, "Oh, they want a sheet metal worker at Chatwood." I thought, "Oh, I'll give it a try." And I never looked back.
When I got to 15 and the careers master said, "What do you fancy doing?" I said, "Well, I fancy the Navy and engineering." And straight away I had a full, massive catalogue, engineering of the Royal Navy, and that was it.
I left school at 15 and went to work for Bolton & Paul Aircraft in Pendleford, Wolverhampton, no longer there now. And I was working as an apprentice in the armaments drawing office. And I decided at one sunny September morning I'd had enough of this, and I, instead of cycling to work, cycled to the recruiting office and joined the army.
I wanted to be a draftsman when I left school, but leaving without any qualifications, I found that very difficult to find a job. I had an uncle who worked at a large engineering company in Darlaston, GKN, who said, "Why don't you try and get a job in the offices and try and work your way around, and you might be able to get into the drawing office."
When I started, there was coke fires for heating, and there was still spindles and pulleys along the ceiling for driving the machinery, though a lot of it had been converted by then.
I went on to a destroyer as an apprentice learner. In those days there were two big boiler rooms, and then there was an engine room, and that was a total of 50,000 horsepower, 13.5 knots they could do. But I'd stayed in the Navy. I could have stayed in till I was 40 and got a pension, and then I suddenly thought, I've never been in Civvy Street. I've no idea what it's like. So I'll come, and by then I was married. I think I'll come out and try me life, in Civvy Street. And by chance, there was a company in Dartford called John and Edward Hall, who'd been there for hundreds of years. And I realised I'd been using their air conditioning machinery on the ships I've been all my life. So I just went in and they said, "You've been doing that, you've got a job." And I was there 25 years.
So I started in the Weybridge office at GKN in Darlaston, but while in there, somebody asked me what I was interested in. I said I was a very practical person, like I like metalwork and woodwork, and one of the drivers said, "Why don't you become an apprentice?" So I applied for apprenticeship and I was accepted. The first 12 months in the training centre, which were absolutely amazing, I did everything, all machining, lathe work, slotting, shaping, grinding, internal, external, electrics, and I did some welding, which I quite liked. And at the end of your 12 months, you were asked which department you would like to enter. And I said I'd like to join the welding and fab department. Unfortunately, there was a vacancy, so it all went from there, really. We started at 7:30 in those days, so I mean, where I lived, I had to catch 2 buses to get there. For a young lad, getting to work for 7:30 can be a bit of a problem, but we managed it. The daily work, it could be anything. I also had a mentor When I finished my first 12 months in the training centre, when I went into the welding and fabrication department, I was put with another gentleman. I'll never forget his name, a chap named Joe Saunders. He's probably not with us anymore, but he was my mentor for the next 3 years.
As an apprentice, I was under a mentor, and whatever job he'd been given, that's what we worked on. He instructed me and left me to manage certain things, you know, and gradually learn more and more about the various bending tools and things that he used. These are all old tool rolls and that Industrial Revolution type of tools, you know.
In the RAF, I was an air communications technician, and I worked on various aircraft types, from Canberra, Vulcan. I finished up on helicopters at RF Shawbury, on Whirlwinds, Wessex, Gazelle helicopters, and it was basically the communications and radar equipment on the aircraft that I was responsible for. Well, I started off on valve technology, and we started to get digital avionics into the first aircraft I worked on with digital avionics was the Gazelle helicopter, and we had a computer to test the radios as well, and that was in 1976. So the military aircraft were fitted with digital avionics quite early compared to civilian.
The first job I was given to go solo, it was to build a guard for a capstan machine, which was actually operated by ladies. There was a lot of women on the shop floor in those days, and you didn't mess with the ladies on the shop floor. And I had hell of a game. It took me ages to get this guard fitted correctly. That was my first solo job, so that was very challenging. I did manage it eventually, and I had a round of applause off all the ladies, but the manufacturing industry went through a bad phase in the late 70s, early 80s. A lot of the large companies in the Black Country were closing down and making tremendous redundancies. So upon receiving my redundancy from GKN, I had various jobs, site work, and I eventually applied for a job at what was then Wednesbury College, and I managed to get the job. And that was in September 1980, and I was involved in education right up until I received my retirement 9 years ago.
We had one occasion when my mentor was sent to Bristol, and he had to put some ducting up in the Brabazon hangar. Probably don't remember the Brabazon, but anyway, we came to put this up. It was all pre-made, and he had what we term in sheet metal work a rectangular to round at about this high offset, and it was about 2 inches too long, and he managed to take it apart, recut the metal and fold it back up again to make it fit. Now that was something.
There's one aircraft carrier I was on. My last ship was an aircraft carrier, and but strangely I wasn't down the engine room on that. I got on the aircraft carrier, and a chap said, "Oh, Eddie," said, you know, he said, "You're looking after the steam catapults, which threw the planes off." Because in that time, they had to be fired off with the steam catapult. We didn't have the vertical takeoff planes then. So I said, "Well, I can't spell catapult. You've got the wrong man." No, he said. So I did a short course, and then for 18 months, I ran the port, left-hand side of the ship, the catapult. And never lost a pilot, and that's saying something, because you did lose these pilots were mad as hatters, 22-year-old, getting into a plane like that from 0 to 120 miles an hour in 100 feet. And if they went over the side, they were gone. And then we used to have to retract to bring back all this gear to do it again. Port and start, and then we used to be able to shoot off 2 minutes aside to shoot off planes. So it was quite a bit of engineering there.
It was the annual company Christmas party before we broke up. Oh, it was in in Darlaston or Wednesbury. It could be any of those pubs around the Darlaston. See, Darlaston and Wednesbury is divided by the main road. So on one side of the road is Darlaston, on the other side of the road is Wednesbury. So as soon as you left the company over the road, you were in Wednesbury. But any of those pubs around them, any ones you could get in actually, because they used to be packed. Yes. Because I mean, there was in the 70s, there were that many large engineering companies in the Black Country. There was thousands and thousands of people trying to get a drink.
We always had in the RF, when you were overseas, in particular, the officers used to serve the lads, and of course I used to have to go and serve the lads at Christmas dinner and things like that. That was particularly when I was in the army in Kenya, because they were all young lads basically, and the officers served Christmas dinner, and used to be you got your rum ration.
It did involve quite a bit of drinking, because at that time we got a tot of rum a day, and the tot of rum was 1/8 of a pint, and it's strong, 40%, and that was at theoretically at 11 o'clock.
The night before the Christmas break, they banned alcohol in the factories, of course, but it was smuggled in. And was it? Yeah. And by the afternoon, the workforce had stopped. They knew the management kept out of the way. Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
Christmas can be quite a challenging time for older people, particularly if they're living by themselves.
Well, this will be the first Christmas I'm on my own, because my wife died earlier this year. This Christmas I'm spending with my son. He lives locally, and we get all my side of the family. We always get together, big family get together, usually after Christmas. It always used to be on Boxing Day, but now we put it back to the next weekend after Christmas.
Very quiet, really. It used to be a big family thing, but having lost a lot of our family, it's very limited now, but still enjoyable.
Well, they have been quiet, particularly through the pandemic, as I live on my own now and so I wrote Christmas off. But this year I've been invited to at least 5 Christmas dinners, and this is because of my involvement with the church, as you know.
We do all we can to keep them socially connected and supported over the festive period. We do this in a number of ways. We have a number of services, for example our befriending service, where we match volunteers to older people and they keep in touch with phone calls and visits over the festive period. We have an extensive benefits advice service to make sure that older people are getting everything they're entitled to over the winter period. And we have services like our Help at Home service, which helps to keep people independent, living at home, and then helping with things like cleaning, shopping and so on.
Well, I wish everyone who sees this a very nice Christmas and a Happy New Year.
I'd like to wish everybody a happy Christmas and a Happy New Year, and as I say in the Black Country, have a good one.
Merry Christmas everyone, Happy New Year. Hope you have a prosperous and healthy time.
Singing this song, we'll meet again, don't know when.
Well, All I can say is to all and everybody, Merry Christmas.
Just like you always do, till the blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say